Okay, before I get on with the rest of the show, I have to have my regular conversation about the racist and divisive voice. I've got to say, the voice is already changing Australian society. And it might surprise you to hear from me that in some ways I think that's for the better. I sense more people are prepared to speak up about some of the stupidity we've accepted under the guise of reconciliation and Aboriginal culture than ever before. Now, I have a theory. We've accepted this because, while it's annoying and insulting to hear a welcome to country every hour or so, it's essentially harmless. Now, one could say the same about the billions of dollars in payments that are given to a very small group of people who then blame us for their woes while spending our money with no visible benefit and actually no explanation as to where the cash is actually gone. It's the local equivalent of sending money to the Ukraine. It disappears into an untraceable maze of self-enrichment. Now, we've accepted that charade for decades because we don't want to be told that we're racist. But I do think it's time we became realists. The Voice has exposed the real agenda behind these harmless tributes and how the Voice is just the next step in a move towards a treaty and then this thing called truth-telling. In truth, I think they're telling us they just want more money, more power, and there's going to be more racial division in this country than ever before. And that exposure, it's opened the eyes of many Australians, and it's even got some of the elders of the Aboriginal industry now talking at odds. Marcia Langton threatened no more welcome to country ceremonies if the Voice failed. Now, I was one of the many that cheered at that remark, and I hoped it was an absolute promise. But since then, I note Langton has crab walked away from this welcome threat recently. And for the record, I just want to put this on the record. Here's what she did say, as quoted in the Australian magazine. Quote, "I imagine that most Australians who are non-Indigenous, if we lose the referendum, will not be able to look me in the eye. How are they going to ever ask an Indigenous person, a traditional owner, for a welcome to country? How are they ever going to be able to ask me to come and speak at their conference? If they have the temerity to do it, of course the answer is going to be no." Well, I'll certainly be happy to look Marcia Langton in the eye, but I'll certainly never request a welcome to country, and I certainly won't be requesting her to come and speak at any event that I'm conducting. And I suspect many others will feel the same. Now, Noel Pearson, another Indigenous leader, I think he's read the tea leaves, and he's now arguing that acknowledgement of country risks being overused. He said as much on Radio 2GB.
I think we're still in the learning phase here in Australia. I think we ought to come to a consensus about the occasions upon which we use the welcome.
Again, strangely, and it could just be me, I've never heard him mention this before. And I'm also left wondering why, after 65,000 years of continuous culture and use, how anyone can be in the learning phase of when it's appropriate. Could it be because it's actually a modern invention attributed to Ernie Dingo in 1976? Or could it be because Noel Pearson is seeking to change from his aggressive early stance, promising almost endless protest should the referendum fail? Could it be that he and others want to subdue a suddenly aware public back into a state of slumber about the Aboriginal industry and its agenda for this country? Well, I don't know. And actually, neither do you. Actually, no one knows much about the Voice and how it's going to work or how much it's going to cost and what it's actually going to do. But those who do claim to know are the people who are behind it. They're the architects of it. And some of them acknowledge it's more than a single-page document, despite what the Prime Minister asserts. And in totality, the Uluru Statement from the Heart is about reparations, treaty, a separate Aboriginal nation, and money, more money, and even more money. And when we listen to the people who say this, we're told their words were taken out of context, or they're not representative, or even that the words spoken are simply not true. So we're basically being told to ignore the voice of those behind the Voice debate. And so one has to wonder, whose voice should we actually be listening to? Well, that we don't know. And if you don't know, well, then it's best to vote no.